They say all Asians look the same, but what about Caucasians? Hello, we are second-year students from Middlesex University, and we will be presenting our study on ethnic facial memory bias between multiracial and monoracial countries. Humans have an excellent ability to recognize, remember, and distinguish between different faces. However, like most things, it is not perfect and has biases influencing it. One such bias is the other race effect, which is that individuals accurately recall faces from their own race over other races, and this has been supported by many previous literature. One of the prominent studies was of Tam et al. 2017 study, which found that multiracial children had less other race effect compared to monoracial children, which could be due to exposure. Interestingly, Palma and Garcia Marquez 2021 found that instead of increasing memory accuracy of other race faces, repetition actually decreased it. This could mean that repeated exposure to different ethnic faces could actually increase other race effect. Moving on to the rationale of our study, we found that most literature on the other race effect utilized samples of individuals from monoracial countries and had a primarily Caucasian sample. This means that there is a gap in literature researching other race effect that pertains to multiracial countries and South Asian individuals. UAE can be considered a multiracial country as it has over 2,000 different nationalities accommodated. This brings us to the aim and hypothesis of our study. The aim of the study was to investigate the differences in facial memory between individuals from monoracial and multiracial countries, in addition to investigating the other race effect on South Asians. As previously mentioned, we can be considered a multiracial country. Therefore, we use UAE to be our multiracial country, while South Asian countries was considered monoracial. Our first hypothesis was that participants from UAE will have more accurate memory of other race faces compared to individuals from South Asia due to more exposure. While our second hypothesis was that all participants will remember own race faces more accurately than other race faces.
To test the first hypothesis, an independent measures design was used, with the first independent variable being the level of ethnic diversity in the country, that is a monoracial or a multiracial country. The dependent variable was the facial memory, which was measured by the accuracy of the estimate on how many ethnic faces the participant remembers seeing. An independent sample t-test was used for this analysis. For the second hypothesis, a repeated measures design was used, with the second independent variable being the ethnicity of faces shown, that is the same versus different ethnicity as the participant. The dependent variable was the memory of faces measured by the number of faces discriminated accurately. For this analysis, a paired sample t-test was used. The total sample consisted of 50 South Asian participants after the data was cleaned, with ages ranging from 16 to 66. Of the total sample, 82% were female and 18% were male. The participants were recruited using a convenient sampling method by forwarding the Qualtrics link to family, friends, and colleagues via email and social media. Of the 50 participants, 24% of the participants resided in a South Asian country for majority of their life, while 76% resided in UAE, which is a multiracial country. The materials included a facial memory test showing a series of generated Caucasian and South Asian faces as seen in the images. It also included a few demographic questions, including age, gender, ethnicity, and the country the participants spend the majority of their life in, with 3 options to choose from: UAE, a South Asian country, or other. The participants took part in the study via the Qualtrics link. They were first briefed on the purpose of the study, and the consent to continue was acquired. At the beginning of the study, the participants were shown a series of Caucasian and South Asian faces. The participants were then asked to give an estimate on how many unique identities they remember seeing, and of those unique identities, how many were Caucasian and how many were South Asian. The final part of the questionnaire required the participants to answer a few demographic questions, including which country they spend the majority of their life in.
A paired samples t-test revealed that memory was significantly higher for own race faces than for other race faces. An independent samples t-test revealed that there was no significant difference between monoracial and multiracial countries. Our findings oppose the findings by Ashers et al. And Tham et al., who suggest that own race bias is more common in monoracial countries. Our findings suggest that there is no significant bias between monoracial and multiracial countries in terms of own race bias. This could be due to an even number of sample in the two groups leading to non-significant results. Samples consisting of old adults to young people instead of children. Individuals from monoracial countries being exposed to other ethnic faces through social media, which was not considered. Our second hypothesis, however, is supported, suggesting that own race bias is higher in South Asians as opposed to other ethnic groups. This is also in line with previous literature, which suggests that other race effect is stronger for own race faces.
The following study has implications to the forensic setting for investigating the impact of faulty memory on recognizing other ethnic faces in instances such as line of identification. The other race effect can lower the accuracy of eyewitness identification and lead to wrongful convictions, which has serious repercussions to both the criminal justice system as well as innocent individuals who have been wrongly convicted. Another implication is the poor detection of fraudulent photo IDs for foreign nationals compared to local citizens in security settings with a high prevalence of ethnic diversity, such as passport control at international airports. It also has implications to the potential that police behavior is influenced by implicit bias against social groups rather than legally defined criminal behavior.
The strengths of our study include utilizing a robust test to measure facial memory effectively and using UAE as our multiracial country due to its diverse range of ethnicities, as limited studies has done so. However, it should be noted that there are some limitations, which primarily involve the sample. The sample size was quite small, as only 50 South Asians were gathered. There were more participants from multiracial countries due to our inability to reach more participants living in South Asia. And lastly, the sample consisted primarily of females, therefore the result may not be generalizable to males. This study could be replicated in the future using wider and more diverse sample to determine the generalizability of the findings. Future research could also look into whether social media increase exposure of other ethnicities in monoracial countries and whether social media has any effect on other race effect. In conclusion, our study indicated that other race effect is also prominent among South Asians, and that there is no effect of increased exposure to ethnic faces, as individuals from multiracial countries did not differ from monoracial ones. These are the references used in the presentation. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to present this study.